Hey guys, welcome to part two. IRgate to RUgate. God forgives. The hill does not. So in part one, we covered the roots of the Clintonian dynasty, and if I had to sum it up, I kind of think of it as sort of, Reagan kind of wearing like a Che Guevara shirt, having like dreadlocks and shit, and just kind of going in, how do you do, fellow kids? And I think that that perfectly describes Clintonism, kind of new, new neoconservatism described as, or disguised as new left, right? The kind of hippie movement. Um, so I want to continue on this theme that modern neoliberalism is, or Clintonian neoliberalism, if we're going to be so bold as to give it that label, if it is indeed a thing, is essentially just astroturfed, really, which is, for those unfamiliar, it's when a bottom or a top-down movement, a movement that's kind of funded by rich oligarchs and this sort of thing, it pretends to be a movement of the people. So I think that's the essence of what Clintonism is about. And I think another element of this is the, well, the way they legitimize just the most, insane kind of right-wing fever dreams, right? Or, yep, far-right fever dreams, such as the ZOG. Some of you will know what I'm talking about, but for those who don't, it'll get clear as we do the deep dive into this. But before we continue, I have a little story. I think it's effective to start every one of these parts with a story. The story is called The Pink Sticker. So imagine, if you will, it's March 2003. It's just before the Iraq invasion, and the Clintonian dynasty is beginning it's a renaissance, it's a rebirth. So about 100 women of the activist group Code Pink, they're dressed in pink slips, and they're waving. They're going in and out of congressional offices demanding to meet with the representatives. Now, they get to Hillary Clinton's office, and they sit down, and they refuse to leave until they have a meeting with Hillary Clinton. Within an hour, Clinton appeared. I like pink tulips around this time of year. They kind of remind you that it may be spring, she began, looking out at the rows of women in pink. Well, you guys look like a big bunch of tulips. It got even more awkward. Having just returned from Iraq, she relays that the weapons inspectors in Baghdad told us that there was no danger of weapons of mass destruction, that the Iraqi women they met were terrified about the pending war and desperate to stop it. Clinton responded, I admire your willingness to speak out on the women and children of Iraq. But, and remember, side note, anything before the word but is horseshit. But there is a very easy way to prevent anyone from being put in harm's way, and that is for Saddam Hussein to disarm, and I have absolutely no belief that he will. Okay, I have to make another side note here. It's kind of hard to drop a gun if you don't have a gun. But I digress. So, Disgusted, the co-founder of Code Pink, Jody Evans, tears off her pink sticker and hands it to Clinton, saying that her support for Bush's invasion would lead to the death of many innocent people, especially by making the bogus connection between Saddam Hussein and 9/11. Clinton storms out saying, "I am the senator from New York and I will never put my people's security at risk." I'm not sure whose people she means, but all right. But she takes the sticker, and the sticker is a pink slip emblazoned with the words, "You're fired." Now, see, if she'd gone against the war, she would have gotten a hug instead. That's how they did it. Representatives who pledged to oppose it gets a hug, and the ones who opposed it got the "You're fired" slip, which is really prescient considering where this is all going. Apologies for over-explaining the joke, but she said the security of her people. Whatever. At this point, I think it'd be good to transition to this bit I had prepared. I'm going to play a little fast and loose, play it kind of fast and loose. Okay, the historiography of the Zog, the Zionist-occupied government. Now, see, right at this point at the start of the 90s, at this neoliberal turn at the end of history, you have the dissolution of kind of dissident left, right? But what's left over is the dissident right, and I think that's the force that they're kind of pitted up against at this point. Because the other people, they've been kind of neutered, co-opted, however have you. And you get these disenfranchised people who get the sense that their government isn't really, a popular government. Like, this is, you have all these unelected people in the shadows running shit in their smoke-filled rooms. And you have all these theories, the New World Order, the establishment, conservatism Inc. for, if you're just going to refer to the, the state of things for the Republican Party, the deep state, which gains popular currency today, and finally the ZOG, the Zio-occupied government. And so that theory kind of says that you're hijacked by this fifth column of people who seem to care more about country A than the unwashed plebeians that make up the mass of the United States. Now, I'm not going to do some sort of demagogic populist right-wing diatribe here, but I do think there's something to this. I think, people, when they talk conspiracy theories or they don't, I think the problem is with this kind of dialogue is they don't frame it in a way that gives them the ability to understand things, to say that they're trying to understand things in a systematic way. If they framed it like a sort of Marxist theory, it would actually make some goddamn sense to a wider audience, I think. But anyway, the ZOG pretty much puts the American plebeians like they're in a under a foreign occupation, not unlike the occupation of Palestinian lands. And some of these people, obviously, they don't have the fuzziest view of anyone with a skin tone lighter than fucking or darker than Sean Connery or some shit. But I think there's something here. especially when talking about the Clinton years, because okay, this term it's coined by Eric Thompson in 1976, but in the 80s you have a string of crimes, um, and then finally you get the Oklahoma City bombing in the mid 90s, which kind of was blamed on Muslims. Muslims got physically attacked over it, but then they decided to say, oh no, it's Timothy McVeigh, and he's following the kind of fictional story Dr. William Luther Pierce wrote, the Turner Diaries. And he's in this book. When people are reviewing this book, they say that he's not so much a Holocaust denier as he is a would-be Holocaust repeater, and his the story of the Turner Diaries culminates in fighting, getting rid of all the Africans and flying nuclear weapons into Tel Aviv. And so this is blamed on the bombing of the Oklahoma City federal building, which gives Clinton a boost in the polls, by the way, in '95 when he kind of plays this role of consoler in chief that you see Barack Obama playing up later. Now, I'm not going to get to the deep dive into that just yet, but one thing I will note is that the FBI either, okay, at best they were they sat on they're set with their thumbs in their asses, or or at worst they totally like enabled it and may have even kind of did some sort of entrapment like thing. But the thing about state suppression that results from, see, state suppression doesn't care about the color of your skin. State suppression is it can be very race neutral. So after they fail to blame it on the Muzzies, they they